Today we get to do something so fun. We're going to get introduced to the metric system. And this is one of my favorite things to teach all year because it comes with a cool memory song, a song to help us memorize the metric system that you're going to watch after you watch this video. So you'll watch this one and then you're going to go ahead and listen to a rap that I think helps you to memorize this that I'm going to explain right now, okay? Do you remember how all last week we kept talking about if you are going from a measurement that's bigger to something smaller, you would multiply, right? So let me write this up here. When you're going from something bigger to smaller, you multiply, right? And if you were going from something smaller to bigger, you would divide, right? So we kind of talked about that a lot last week, and what that means is, you know, a bigger measurement like feet, if you were going from feet to inches, you would multiply to get your answer. Or if you were going from something like inches up to feet, you would divide the problem, multiply the problem to get the answer, right? This holds true in the metric system as well, but we get the cool benefit of going by tens. So the metric system is a system that is used all around the world. It's different than our customary units that we use in the United States. And so a lot of people would say, well, why don't we use the metric system in the United States? Well, actually, we do. We use it a lot. So I think if I asked you what a 2-liter container of soda was, you would know what size that is. Well, liters are a metric measurement. Or actually, if you take any kind of medicine at all, medicine is always measured in milliliters, milligrams, because that's just how we do it. So we actually do use the metric system a lot here. We don't use it all the time, but we use it a lot. So it's something that you need to know. You need to know both the metric system and the customary units of measurements. So converting the metric system, like I said, is really easy because it's by tens. Do you remember at the beginning of the year when we talked about exploding dots and we had these boxes like this and we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and once you get to 9 it explodes and goes over to here and becomes a 10. So there's 1 in this box, 0 in this box, and then again, right? And when you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, once you get to 10 that explodes, goes to the next box, and this becomes 2, right? 20, like that. That's how you count your place value. This is going to become important with the metric system because it does go by tens. And so to divide and multiply when we're dealing with tens is super fun and easy because you just move decimals, right? You're just moving the decimal back and forth. Remember when we started talking about decimals and I explained that, you know, when you have something like 10 and you divide it by 10, that you're really just moving a decimal, right? Or you have something like 40 and you divide it by 10, you're really just moving the decimal. When you're dividing, you move the decimal that way over 1, and so 40 divided by 10 is actually 4. Hopefully that rings a bell. That's how the metric system works. So we're going to talk about it. Now, the measurements go like this. We remember these in math different ways. Here are what the measurements are. Kilo, hecto, deca. This is the base, the unit that we deal with. Deci, centi, milli. Now you're like, how am I going to remember that? Well, it's very easy. We remember it by King Henry died drinking chocolate milk. In fact, some people teach base, they use the word unit instead of base, and they say King Henry died unfortunately drinking chocolate milk. But I like to use base because the rap that I'm going to have you listen to in just a moment uses the word base because it uses bass, you know, when it's kind of singing this, and so that helps. But some teachers you'll see they'll use unfortunately, and that just means units. The base unit, that's what this is, the base unit. So for example, if we're talking about meters, our base unit would be meters. Okay, and so then from there, we add these Latin prefixes to be able to know what it is. So centimeters are a certain size, millimeters, kilometers or kilometers, right? Hectometers. So kilo, hecto, deca, base, deci, centi, milli. And the wrap will help you remember that. Okay, so let me show you how this works. So remember how we talked about when you're going from big to small, you multiply, and small to big, you divide? Well, the cool thing is, if you set this up the right way, kilo, hecto, deca, base, deci, centi, milli. Let me write this. Kilo, hecto, deca. This is the base unit. Deci, centi, milli. All you're going to be doing is if you're multiplying, you go that way. If you're dividing, you go that way with a decimal. And it's that simple. So for example, if your base unit is liters, which we would use for measuring something liquid, right? And say you had 15 milliliters of something. Let me use a different color here. If we had 15 milliliters of something, how you could convert that into liters is you put it in the chart under milliliters, and you're going to take the decimal and move it over however many places to get to liters. So check this out. Millis right here, 1, 2, 3 to get to the liters. So since we are here in milliliters, 15, we're going to move our decimal 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to have to add a 0 there to be able to move it. And I move that decimal to there. So 15 milliliters is the same as 15 thousandths of a liter, or 0.015, right? We could write it like that. So all we did is move the decimal over. So that's the cool thing with the metric system, is all we're doing is moving a decimal back and forth for the measurements. So it's really cool. So let's do another one. Let's say we have meters, and we're trying to figure out how far it is from one place to another. So let's say something is 2 kilometers. So I say, well, my grandmother lives 2 kilometers away, and I want to know how many meters that is. All I have to do is take the 2. The decimal on a 2 is right there, right? And let's go ahead and count over. We're going from kilometers to meters. So 1, 2, 3 decimal places. I'm going to pop some zeros on the end. Here we go. 1, 2, 3 decimal places. That means that my grandmother lives 2 kilometers away, and that's 2,000 meters. It's that simple. So that's all we have to do to convert measurements in the metric system, is we have to know kilo, hecto, deca, base, deci, centi, milli, and then we need to know that we go that way to divide, and we go that way to multiply, and we're just going to go ahead and do that. So if we head this way on the chart, we're multiplying. So say I wanted to go kilometers to millimeters. We would probably never do that because kilometers are a big distance and millimeters are like tiny, right? But let's say we wanted to know how many millimeters was in 2 kilometers. All we have to do is take our 2 and move our decimal over. Well, our decimal's right here on the 2. Let's go ahead and throw some zeros on the end. I don't know how many we'll need. Let's see. And we're going to go from kilo to milli. Since we're going that way on the chart, we're multiplying. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 places over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bam. And then we'll count our zeros. 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3. It's 2 million. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and the 2. It's 2 million millimeters. Wow, interesting, right? But there's no multiplying it by 12 or, 16, if we're talking about ounces, or 2,000 if we're talking about pounds and all that stuff. There's no converting like that. All we have to do is move the decimal back and forth, okay? So it's the same thing if you had something that was, let's do a different thing, something that's 24 millimeters long, and you want to know how many kilometers that is. It's the same thing. It's just that if you're heading that way, you're going to move the decimal that way. You're going to divide that way. So let's take our 24, our decimal place is right here. I'm going to head that way, so I got to throw some zeros on the front. See how far we can get. But here's our decimal, and we're going to go from millimeters all the way to kilometers. Let's see what it would be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right there. So 24 millimeters would be 0.00024 kilometers. Isn't that funny? It's past the decimal.